one day to live.
Only got one day to live.
That's how I'm gonna live.
Only got one day to live. Only got one day to live.
I was awakened with a smile on my face when I realized an aching, making me shaking. I was taken to the placement of emergency patients, and my patience is thin. When the doc came in and said in 24 hours it would all end. Jack Bauer, but I cowered. Hour 1 cried out, why has that forsaken me? Hour 2 called my family, told them God has taken me. Hours 3 through 6, I made a 6 shift. Tried to get with every chick I missed previous. Yes, I'm devious. I was 7 through 10, I realized that wasn't the win. Grab my son, spend time with them. By that time it was 7 p.m. Agonized that I depart in the whirlwind. As the world spins, I won't see them date girls in, become heroin. I see a sparrow then, that's odd. Several seconds have ticked and I feel refreshed in. That's God, this must be part of the creator's plan. My squad, several praying men came in and grabbed my hand again. That's hard. Again I was awakened but with a frown on my face. It was a dream, I knew then God wasn't in the right place. Right then I repented for the sin within. What would you do if you had one day before the end?
But as I was saying, the Me Too movement really has taken down a lot of great careers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very well respected men,
Mm-hmm.
white and black.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Lauer, stellar career for years on the Today Show.
Mm-hmm.
Gone.
Mm-hmm.
Gone. Charlie Rose and Tavis Smiley are two that I have always respected. And PBS, let me just say this, in the world of journalism, that's a sacred place.
Mm-hmm.
That's a special place. You got to
Mm-hmm.
have, you have to really be about something, integrity and character, to get a show, your own show on PBS.
Mm-hmm.
Both Charlie Rose and Tavis Smiley are gone. No, nowhere to be seen, and does not look like they will be coming back anytime soon. And my point is just that, again, when we talk about America having a long memory or a short memory, it all depends.
Yeah, because Jerry Jones, like you said, Jerry Jones, ain't nobody even talking about that. And I'm with LeBron on that. Like how you got all this energy for one thing, but you don't have the same amount of energy when it comes to stuff that happened to black people.
Jerry Jones, like I said, may have been a child at the time that photo was taken. But I expect, as I'm sure many Americans expect, that he should take better ownership of being in that photo than just saying, I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was there and I was a kid.
No doubt. Like he didn't know. I know at 14, I knew what was going on in my school.
You may have been a kid, but you knew what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had an awareness of what was happening. And today, like I said, and today in this space, in this place, I expect that you're going to say, I was a child at that time. I was a kid, teenager at that time. But I do understand right now, today, the significance of what was happening at that time.
Yeah.
And I do not condone, I'm not racist. I don't condone racism. I understand, what was happening as far as segregation and integration. I feel that there should be equal access. I believe in support, diversity, equity, inclusion. That's what I'm expecting you to say, Jerry Jones.
Yeah. So we are now recording Wealthy Thoughts Show episode 3. As you can see, we don't have any guests this day. We'll be back with some guests in a few weeks. So we took a week off for Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving, Trayce?
Thanksgiving was awesome. It was
cool.
Wonderful. Great to spend time with family. So yes.
What did y'all do?
So I had my kids in town, and we just got together, Thanksgiving is all about, first of all, giving thanks, but it's about the food. We're not gonna even lie, you gotta have good food. So, we had turkey, had some seafood in there for the folks that like the seafood, but
Yeah.
dressing, yams, mac and cheese, greens, the standards, desserts, banana pudding, pecan pie. Um, so it was great. We did games night. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, we're trying to do some family activities when we get together. So we had games night. That was a lot of fun. Played the board version of oh gosh, Family Feud.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Okay.
was
Cool.
really cool. Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah. So, and other than that, just chill.
Cool. Cool. Well,
And you? And you?
I was working. I was working, and the night before Thanksgiving, Wednesday,
Hmm.
Michael came over. He was in
Okay.
town, and
Okay.
so he came over. I cooked some food for us. We ate, watched some TV.
And I
You
saw
know,
those pictures served that meal. That looked pretty delicious.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was good. It was
I was
pretty
like,
good.
look, okay, this
I've
man
been
can
having
cook.
those. I didn't eat as much as I wanted to eat because of what I had going on, but I'm
Yeah,
good now. I'm getting a lot
yeah.
better, and so Michael, he had that food there for the couple of days he was there, and then I went to
Okay,
work.
okay,
And so the two little ones was in Detroit at that time. So now I'm in Detroit for a couple of days while we
okay,
record this,
okay.
and then we'll be back to normal probably next week, and
Okay.
hopefully have another guest on. Trying to get some different guests lined up to talk about different stuff, different business ideas and different
Hmm.
things like that. But what I wanted to do today was talk about, I know I get a lot of questions about setting up businesses and stuff like that. So before I even talk about what I'm gonna talk about, I want to say I am no financial advisor. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney.
Right.
So whatever you take from this, it is entertainment purposes,
Hmm.
but more than entertainment purposes, go look it up, make
Hmm.
sure it's right for you,
Hmm.
and then if it's right for you, you can take these tips. I use them, they work for me, they have been working for me, and they're still working for me,
Hmm.
and I'm going to continue to use them and to use more of anything else that I learned to go along with it. But just talking about starting LLCs or S corps, um, I know a lot of people, they don't think they had the money to start it and stuff, and you need an attorney to start it. You don't need an attorney to start an S corp or LLC. It's good to have one, but if you don't have the money for that right away, you can go start an S corp or LLC right online at any of your whatever state you're in. They have a state secretary of state, and you can go on their website and typically start your LLC there and get everything started. From there, you get your LLC. You go to IRS, you go to the irs.gov and you get your EIN number for your LLC. That'll give you a business number that you can use, kind of like a social security number for your business. Then from there, you can take the LLC, the EIN number. You can go start your bank account at a bank for that. Um,
And
before
just
you do
a
that,
quick question, Randy, is there a cost to get the EIN, and is there a cost?
EIN number is not a cost. LLC, it depends on the state. Like
Okay,
in Georgia, I believe the LLC is $100,
okay,
and I believe I could be wrong, but I believe it's $100, and then there's a renewal fee every year in Georgia.
okay.
Um,
And
in
how long does that
Michigan, I
process
think an
take?
LLC might be $50. I can't remember all the way,
Okay,
but you just go on, like I said, like I said, they
mhm.
can go on their Secretary of State website and figure that out. What was the next question you had?
How long does that process normally take? Because I'm sure that a lot of
Oh, well, if you do the LLC, I can tell you, like the EIN number, you can get that back almost within 24 hours,
okay,
if not quicker.
okay.
The LLC take a little bit longer, but normally you'll have an email by at least 2 or 3 days,
Oh, okay.
um, telling you that your LLC has been accepted, if it's accepted, and if it's not, they'll tell you why,
Mm-hmm,
and then you'll get something in the mail with it.
mm-hmm,
EIN number, you'll get that real quick. You get that,
mm-hmm.
like I said, normally within 24 hours. And that EIN number, they'll also send you they'll send you something in the mail to let you know. After you get the EIN number, Another thing you should go do is get a business address. Instead of using your home address, which you can use, nothing wrong with that, but using a business address just looks better when you're trying to get business credit down the line.
And
So
when we talk about business address, we're not talking about a PO box, right?
no PO boxes. PO boxes are not what you want to use. You want to use
Got it.
you can use something like UPS store,
Mm,
because UPS store has a actual address
got it.
and with a suite number, and then that suite number they'll have
Okay.
a box number on the suite number. So like
Okay.
if like the UPS store is in a suite like
Hmm.
200, and then whatever your box, the suite
Got
will
it.
say 200 dash whatever your box number is. So if your box number is 120, it'll say 200 dash 120. But because that is a actual address, that looks better. Another thing, if you want to go a little bit one step further, you can do a virtual address. If you go online, Google virtual addresses in the area, you'll find different businesses that allow you to use their address as your virtual address. They'll collect your mail for you. They'll do all that stuff for you. They'll let you know when you're getting the mail in. Some places they charge you $50 a month, $100 a month, and up.
Got
But but with that, they offer different services depending on the building. Some buildings they'll let you even rent some of the rooms out to have meetings. And then some buildings they'll also let you they'll answer phone calls for you. Get phone calls at the business. They'll answer phone calls and take messages for you. All that stuff is extra money, of course,
it.
but it's definitely good if you're trying to build a business or something like that, and build a business where it looks like, okay, I got a meeting place, and you want to meet people there instead of meeting them at Starbucks or something like that. You can meet them at that virtual office sometimes, just depending on what type of virtual office you got. Again, you have to go online, Google virtual offices, and you can find some of the better virtual offices in your area, like Georgia and Atlanta area. There's so many of them that I wouldn't even want to tell you which one to go to. You
Right.
just got to find which one is best that you think is best for you. Once you get that address, like I said, you definitely want to get a bank account after that. Set up a bank account. Find you a bank account that got a good business account where you're not paying a monthly fee on that business account. There's a lot of online banks that have good business accounts where you're not paying monthly fees, and
Right.
they also have interest on your money that's in there.
Is there a checklist or a website that folks can go if they are looking to start their own business, so that they can, just basically go down the list and say, okay, EIN
Boom, boom,
number,
boom, boom.
check, you know,
I don't have one offhand.
check.
I don't have one offhand, but I can tell you this: if you go to Amazon, there's a bunch of books on Amazon Kindle
Okay.
that you can look up. Especially if you got like if you're a person that like got Kindle Unlimited like I do, uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can find a bunch of books on there that'll talk about setting up business setups and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely, if you go to YouTube, which is the greatest, which is the greatest how-to
Mm-hmm.
place in the world, you go anywhere on YouTube, you can start searching after you get done watching us, and you just pull up setting up a business or business setup checklist. You can
Mm-hmm.
also go to something like business credit suite. They talk about how to set up businesses so you can get business credit, a business line of credit eventually. Um, and they'll go through every step by step. And a lot of times, sometimes in there you'll see embedded where they do have a checklist. And what I'll do is I'll find a checklist and I'll make sure I embed it into the comments down the section, the detail section when we finish with this episode.
Yeah, I think that is definitely something that's very helpful,
Hmm.
for our listeners and for our viewers. Having a checklist, having an actual document that you can look at and reference,
Yep.
to just check, to track and be able to see that
Yep.
you are, following the steps, that you need to follow. How important is it to have a business plan? Um,
So
we talk about, you talked about starting the LLC and getting the EIN, but should you have a business plan before you do those things?
that's interesting. That's a good question. So I'm going to say, in my case, no, I didn't have a business plan before I started. I didn't care to have one. because I knew I was not necessarily going to get business. I wasn't looking to get business funding from anyone either.
Okay.
If you're looking to get business funding from someone, you need to have a business plan planned out,
Gotcha.
because that's what's going to help you get funding and grants and different things like that.
Hmm.
I didn't need that for my businesses that I set up. Um, as I went along, I did have a business plan for Eomi Entertainment, um, and that business plan needs to actually be tweaked a little bit. But I did have one for it, but I didn't have it before I set everything up. And so that business has been going for what, at least another the business been going for a long time, but actually set up in a business format has been going for about 7, 8 years now.
And that's
As
good to
far
know, because I think sometimes folks may have an idea of what
Mhm,
they want to do as far as starting a business, and then they
mhm,
may find out, well, you know what, I've changed my mind, or
mhm.
they determine they want to tweak something. Um,
A business plan can always be tweaked. It can always change. And I would say this: I didn't have a business plan, like a straight up business plan that I would have shown to a bank, but I had things written down of where I wanted to go, how a hierarchy of how everything should be set up. I had those type of things done. Um, but even if you didn't have those things done and you just had some ideas and you knew what you wanted the business name to be, I would think it would be good to go in and get that business trademarked if you want to get a trademark, and also get the business started. Get the LLC or the S corp. Like I said, you have to find out about which one with the S corp and the LLCs. Like I said before, this get an attorney, get a financial advisor, and talk to them about which one will be best for you in your situation. For me, LLCs were the best thing for me because of the way the businesses were set up, and they are single member LLCs.
what
But
is the difference between the S corp and the LLC?
it's tax structure.
Got it.
And it's tax structure that really, once we start really getting into it, because I'm not a tax a tax person.
Right.
Like, I do my own taxes because I know how to do them for me, but I
Hmm.
wouldn't necessarily go out and do other people's taxes.
Got it.
So I know how to do my taxes, and I also know how I have all my stuff in line. But at some, at like after this, probably will be the last year that I do my taxes, because it's just getting
Yeah.
too much information, too much money coming in, too
Hmm.
much different things like that. So, um, and just once you get to that point, then you need to get a tax advisor coming in. The more money you make, the more advisors you gotta have. And
More
so,
money, more problems.
yeah, so I don't like to call them problems. I think
No,
it's a great thing.
no, I'm being
Because
facetious.
I don't, I had
Right.
this discussion. I had discussion with some of my friends about more money, more problems. I was like, I've never known myself to have too many more problems when I had more money.
Right.
I
Right.
know money to solve some problems.
Right.
I think we can add problems to ourselves with money because of the things that we do with the money.
Yeah.
But I'm not the type of person that think it's more money, more problems. Just more responsibilities and more things that I have to make sure that I account for, so that I don't have a problem in the end.
And I think that is definitely important for people to understand, is that again, there are, pros and cons to everything.
Mm,
And, definitely becoming an entrepreneur, starting your own business, is huge. It's a, a tremendous undertaking,
mhm.
exciting to say the least. But to your point, you definitely have some things that you need to think about and definitely plan for, so that you aren't caught off guard. Um,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
definitely got to make sure you do your taxes, and
Oh yeah,
that you are reporting things accurately, that you're
yeah.
tracking and keeping up with your receipts and your documents
Hmm.
regarding your business transactions. I think that sometimes folks don't do enough research and homework,
Yeah, definitely.
and aren't as prepared as they should be, for becoming entrepreneurs. Definitely, people want to make money. Lots of folks have, a side hustle or two or three. But I definitely think it's important to make sure that you're dotting those I's and crossing those T's.
No doubt, no doubt. And so, I mean, and I just basically want to go over some basics. Again, I'm not a
Hmm.
tax professional. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a
Right,
lawyer. But I these are things that I have done that has definitely helped me to hold on to some of my money from my regular job,
right.
and to help me separate myself, separate my business from me, and be able to make sure that my business made money and was able to pay me, and go from there. And setting up some things to where they are, if somebody go after those things, they can't come after me. But
Absolutely.
then as you get bigger in it, then you'll start. I know people watch Instagram and TikTok. They see these people talk about trusts and and
Right.
putting the trust under the LLC, or the trust over the LLC.
Hmm.
Trust owns the LLC, and then you run the trust, and now you're all the way. But that's when you start getting into, again. You need lawyers for all that. You need financial advisors. It's all good. You need all that stuff to get set up. But that's when you start talking about you getting into a lot of money, and you're getting into either you got property, or you got some type of inheritance that you're trying to leave behind, and you got these trusts and all this different setup so that nobody can come in and take that stuff away from you, from the legacy, the generational wealth you're trying to build,
Right.
or taking away from your kids, take away from your wife or spouse, husband, wife, whichever one, and take it away from and take it away from you.
And you just have to be careful,
Yeah.
again, making sure that you're dotting the I's, crossing the T's, that you're doing your research, and you have a clear understanding about, what that means, what
Mhm.
is a trust and how to set things up, and making sure those things are set up properly. Or you could be, looking at some serious
Looking at some serious.
fines,
Yes.
to
Yes.
say the least.
Yes.
And potential prosecution, worst case
Yes.
scenario.
Your worst case
Nobody wants
scenario. So
nobody wants to deal with that.
again, I just want to talk about that. Keep us talking about something business like before
Mhm.
we get into talking about what's going on in our crazy world that we have out here.
Right.
I know you have another topic for us today. We were offline and going online. We were talking about
Mhm.
LeBron James, calling the media out for not talking about Jerry Jones the way they talked about Kyrie,
Right.
and just really shed light on the fact that there is a double standard. And so I know
Absolutely.
you, I mean, kind of piggybacking off that double standard, you
Mhm.
had a topic.
Right. So what I wanted to talk about is, I have a variety of interests, but really enjoy, comedy, comedians.
Hmm.
And a number of comedians of late have been complaining about um, not being able to tell jokes and get into their material the way that they have in the past. And so my topic of conversation is just, what is free speech?
Hmm.
What is free speech? What does that mean?
Okay.
Freedom of speech. Um,
Okay.
so that's the thing that I wanted to, talk about and put out there.
Okay. Give me an example. What we talking about?
So, just for example, we look at, of course, the highly controversial and always in the news recently, um, Kanye West. He's
Okay.
made a number of statements regarding Jews, and he has basically set the Twitterverse and just everything on fire with his comments.
Yeah.
Even today, his comments about Hitler. Here's the thing. Do we agree with him? Do I agree with him? Of course not. But, I guess the question becomes, does he have the freedom to speak his opinions and share his opinions as he believes them to be?
Quite
Um,
interesting. So
yeah,
he was on Alex Jones show, which is
mhm,
already a red flag for me.
right,
Um,
right.
I and all you know, just all full disclosure, I used to be an avid Jones follower before Obama got into office.
Mm-hmm.
When I first heard about Alex Jones was way back
Mm-hmm.
in 911, and
Mm-hmm.
he had these tapes out talking about how 911 was a conspiracy and how all this stuff, you know, these showing how they,
Mm-hmm.
you know, trying to prove how they set this all up and
Mm-hmm.
different stuff like that. And
And
I
we're talking about 9/11, right?
yeah,
We're
9/11,
talking
yeah.
about the World Trade
The
Center.
World Trade, yeah. So he had all these tapes out. He had a 911. I think one of the tapes was called 911 Tyranny,
Okay.
and all this different stuff. He had all this different information out, and I followed it. I looked at it. I thought a lot of it was legit.
Mm-hmm.
I agreed with some of it. I ain't gonna say I agree with all of it, but I agreed with some of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I am one that did think that that
Mm-hmm.
the government knew what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and if they didn't have anything to do with it, they at least allowed it to happen. I was one to believe that, and I still do believe that in many ways to this day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but once Alex Jones, to me, once Obama got in office, I felt like Alex Jones went totally from being a guy that was questioning the government to a guy that was showing his racist side.
Mm.
And that was just what I felt. I felt like it became very much more racial than
Mm.
it became government.
And so
Because
why do you feel like
because when Obama was in office,
okay.
well, let's put it this way. Let me take that back. When Bush was in office, he
Mm-hmm.
was very critical of Bush,
Got it.
very critical of Bush. But what he did was he was critical of everybody. He was critical of Bush. He was critical of the Democrats, Al Gore. He felt like everybody was in on the conspiracy. When Obama got in office, all of a sudden that kind of changed. It was just the Democrats.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden the Republicans were good. And then when Trump got in office,
Okay.
Trump could do no wrong.
Okay.
And so it became everybody else in the government was against Trump.
Right.
And now, still to this day, he's on this more of, you know, not saying that, you know, if not saying that he talks bad about Biden, but at the end of the day, there's a very, to me, he has gone on the more side of racial conservatives than he has gone on the side of just
Okay.
regular conservatism or things like it's more racial based to me. That's just me. Anybody else may think something totally different.
Okay.
So to see Kanye West on that show, you see him
Mm-hmm.
with Candace Owens, you know, another person that totally disrespects Black community,
Right.
and totally disrespects the different things that
Mm-hmm.
happens to Black community. And like I always say, a broke clock can be right twice a day. And so they do, both of them say things that
Right.
is correct at times, and and then right behind it they say something that just is just ridiculous. And so I'm just when you say his free speech, he has the right to say what he want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna play a devil's advocate with that though. With this
Mm-hmm.
is that with him having
But no, and what I'm asking, and
Mhm.
again, that's the question. The
Well,
question.
he does have the right to say he want to say, but you don't have to write in. I'm gonna say this. You have the right to say what you want to say, right? Um, should your endorsements go away because you say what you say? Well, I'm gonna say this. Depending on who your endorsements are with,
Mm-hmm.
my question is not should they go away because he was talking about Jews,
Mm-hmm.
but he made music that disrespected women. No one took his endorsements away. Or quote unquote disrespected women. I'm not gonna say they disrespected women. I'm gonna say quote unquote disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of women that could say he made music that quote unquote may have disrespected women.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even one of his songs when he was married to Kim, he kind of talked about her video
Mm-hmm.
and you know kind of made light of her making that video. Somebody could have saw that as disrespectful, but nobody took his
Are we talking about her sex video with Ray J?
yeah with Ray J, yeah her video
Okay.
with Ray J, the one that made her famous, the one that started her notoriety. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're talking about that stuff, no one took away his endorsements then. So my question becomes, I don't see them take black people endorsements or black artists endorsements when they run around on the camera talk about killing niggas. But I'll see them take an endorsement for somebody. I'll see them take your endorsement because you believe that because a black person to say, well, we believe that blacks were the Jews. And is that anti-Semitic? Because I believe, well, and let me take that back. They don't even say that they believe they was Jews. They believe that they were the Hebrews, which is that actual nationality. Jews is a religion. Judaism is a religion. That's not an ethnicity.
Got it.
And so when I hear when you're talking about you're going to take somebody's endorsements away because they speak what they believe, then we have to say, where are we hurt? Who are we hurting? What are we doing here? And in the words of LeBron, and in the words of Kyrie Irving, are we keeping the same energy across the board? Because I have heard, let's put it this way, Don Imus in the early 2000s called a bunch of black basketball players nappy-headed hoes. He got took off the radio for the equivalent of a few months, and he was back on the radio. Howard Stern has said
a form of censorship.
Yeah, Howard Stern has said a lot of weird and crazy stuff about blacks, women, Jew. He said stuff about everything, and I've never known him to be taken off the air.
Well, Howard Stern has been and is still referred to as the shock jock.
Yeah,
so that was those statements and the inflammatory remarks that he made were part of his public persona.
Yeah.
And that was his claim to fame. That's what he was known for. He was famous for.
Yeah.
And it was expected of him.
Yeah.
And was there censorship? No, to your point, there wasn't. And so, I guess that is, my question is, what is free speech now? We've seen historically what it has been. What is free speech today? We know what it's supposed to be.
Okay, so explain this first. What is it supposed to be?
We are supposed to be able to share our views, express our thoughts. But I think with the expectation that it is not going to create, an inflammatory situation, a situation that would result in, someone getting hurt.
Okay.
Physically. The freedom to be able to, say what's on your mind.
Okay.
And say what you think. And again, we've talked about Howard Stern, we've talked about Don Imus and, all of these media folks. And, that's pretty much the thing that they have done. They've used their platform to share their views, but also to give other people the opportunity to be heard and share their views. And at times it does get inflammatory and people, react and they respond. Now we have these terms, woke culture.
Okay. I have my thoughts about that. So
yeah, and that was something that did not exist, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even.
So it did. It did.
But we weren't calling it that.
We wasn't calling it that. So it did, but we were actually calling it that 5-10 years ago. It was being called that.
Well, yeah, Spike Lee was the one who said, in all his movies, wake up. He did.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say is this. Starting from what I can remember, we can even go back to the 90s. going back to the 90s.
And the other term, just want to throw that in there. Cancel culture.
Cancel culture. Now that's a newer one.
Yeah.
That's definitely a newer one.
Keep going. Yeah.
But going back to the 90s, the woke culture was seen as, and it was seen as negative. And it was seen as those Negroes, or what we like to use, them Hotep niggas. You remember that? It was always them niggas think they woke. And so it was the Hotep guys. It was the guys that they like to call the Hotep guys. The guys that talked about Africa and talked about Mother Africa and going back to Africa. They wore the red, black, and green. They did all that type of stuff. Those were the woke guys. Somewhere around, I don't know, maybe 2014, 15, 16. I'm gonna even say maybe, it's been later than that, maybe 17. 17, I started hearing white people talk about they were woke. And then all of a sudden became this woke culture.
So can we talk about cultural appropriation?
and so then I
talk about that next week.
Yeah, so I started seeing these white people talk about they were woke, and then everybody all of a sudden was woke. Then you had Charlemagne the God who was woke. You had all these people that were woke all of a sudden.
Right,
woke. And then what I did, this is just me. I heard another guy say that from the quote unquote what they like to call the conscious community, which is back in the day would have been the Dr. Umar Johnsons of the world. They called them people from the conscious community. And I got to a point where I was like, well, so it's a difference now. You're not woke anymore. You're conscious. Because the thing is that woke has been appropriated or reappropriated. It's not the same as what it was. And so my thing is, when you start talking about the woke culture and stuff like that, my question becomes, what are y'all woke to? Because it's like whatever somebody says that becomes popular in media, that's okay. And so there is no real norms until they decide what they feel like is norm, and whoever they is at that time that has the power to make that norm. But I it's just funny because I think Dave Chappelle did his SNL monologue.
Got you. Yeah.
He started it off with like, if you would have said this would have gave you a little bit more time. You just said like,
right.
I'm not trying to hurt, I'm not trying to make any anti-Semitic statements and things like that. That would have gave you a little bit more time. But the thing is that
they still came for Dave after that.
They still came for Dave after that.
They still
One reason Dave probably it doesn't hurt Dave because Dave is bulletproof some kind of way.
Well,
also, there was a couple rabbis that came out and kind of stood by Dave's side.
I think that's important to note. I don't think that Dave perceives himself to be any type of Teflon Don or invincible. But I do think that Dave has the good sense to talk to his friends of the Jewish faith ahead of having these conversations and making these statements in a public forum and on stage. It's a known fact that he and Jon Stewart are good friends. Jon Stewart claims him. They support each other publicly, and Jon Stewart was one of the folks that they went to immediately after that aired, immediately after SNL aired, and was like, Jon Stewart, what do you think? What do you have to say? They also asked Jerry Seinfeld. And interestingly, Jerry Seinfeld's response was, I'm interested in having more of a conversation. But he did not speak out or say anything against Dave Chappelle. Same for Jon Stewart. So I do think that's important. Other thing, that I want to say is SNL is a show that's been around for decades. SNL has always, they've not shied away back in the day from controversy.
No.
You know, and again, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I say free speech. And, you know, that was a show that definitely looked at what was happening in the real world in real time and made skits, you know, took skits and based that off of what was happening in popular culture.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think things get really intense, and to inject a little humor does help to me to bring the temperature of those really, you know, hot and volatile situations down to a place where people can say, you know, let's talk about it. And I think that's important. But I think Lorne Michaels knew exactly what he was doing when he asked Dave Chappelle to come and host. A lot of people had issue with the fact that Dave Chappelle had been on there not too long ago hosting, and the fact that Lorne Michaels brought him back. But look, Lorne Michaels is a smart man. He's a
Yeah,
very
you know, you
intelligent man.
gotta bring you gotta bring somebody that can do it and do it in a way where it's intelligent.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I think it was brilliant on Lorne Michaels' part to have Dave Chappelle come back. I think Dave Chappelle was the perfect person to host that show. I think he did a great job with it. Dave is always funny. You know, whether you agree with what he's saying or not, you know, the LGBTQ, they want to catch him out on the street tonight. I promise you, they got issues with Dave. But I'm like, look, he's a straight shooter. He tells it like it is,
Yeah.
and you know, and he makes you laugh in the process of you know putting it out there. To me, I'd be like, look, you can't stay mad. Literally, you know, laugh and let's talk about it. But I think Dave spoke truth. I wish that Kanye West had some sensible folks in his corner who could grab him by the shirt tails and you know put him on pause and say some of these things, you know, because like Dave said, hey, you know, you can think it, but it's you know, is it smart to say it?
Yeah, I mean,
And I
it's
think
like
that's the piece about, you know, free speech.
that is the piece about free. That's the piece about free speech. But I think another piece that we tend to forget again, like I'm gonna go back to saying this, is that
Mhm.
there's a double standard,
There
and
is, there
the
is,
double standard is this: is that
there is,
there is things that is said about black people. There's
and
things that
people of
is,
color, yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
other people of color.
Hmm.
I mean, for instance, I mean, before he became a president, and his whole campaign was built on we keeping Mexicans out of America. That was his whole campaign was built on that.
And
Trump
his
became president of
presidency
the
was
United
about
States, and his
building the
whole
wall,
campaign was truly built on building a wall to keep America apart, to
right?
keep America separated from Mexico, so Mexicans
Yeah,
can't get in.
yeah.
And so, and commenced to talk about not talk about the many Mexicans that have come, or many Hispanics in general that have come to this country and done well and have made the
Mhm.
country better.
And not just Hispanics. I mean, we're talking about immigrants and
Yeah, but he
people
was talking
who,
about immigrant. But the thing with that, I can't even say immigrants because
yeah. I
white
know what you're saying
immigrants
when he
wouldn't
did
get
talk.
hit.
Yeah, building a
You know what
wall.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
People coming from they weren't building a wall in Canada.
yeah.
They weren't talking
You're
about
right.
building a wall to Canada. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So
yeah.
I mean, you get that's an immigrant. A Canadian that comes over here is an immigrant at the end of
He
the day.
built. Yes, talked about building a wall.
Yeah,
You know, Texas.
yeah.
You
And
know,
so I mean, when you have that, to me,
and then
you're talking about
building
a double standard.
concentration camps, basically in
Yeah,
Haiti, or
and
you know,
and no one did a cancel culture on him.
yeah,
You know, and in many ways, like I said, the woke culture is stolen because
yeah,
you know you can be woke about damn near anything nowadays.
yeah.
You know, it ain't being woke about you know learning your learning your history and learning you know the true history of what's been going on in the society and stuff, and trying to figure out the things that it was left out.
Yeah.
Now all of us, and that was the thing that was that the quote unquote Hotep people, many of them, I'm not saying many of them didn't go overboard with it, did. Just like anything, a lot of people go overboard with Christianity. They become Christians and they become overboard with it.
Yeah.
Everything that you do is wrong because it ain't what you think it is. So I mean, yeah, I do know sometimes the Hotep people became very overboard with it. But my thing is that you can't tell me you so woke,
Right.
but you got a lot of black people that say they woke,
Right.
but they went and voted for Trump. And again,
Right.
I'm not going to sit up and say that Biden or Hillary was a better candidate than Trump. But what I will say is for you to vote for that man
Yeah.
based on whatever you try to figure out to base it on, and you know that has been blatant racist,
Yeah.
blatant blatant narcissistic,
Right.
blatantly an elitist.
Well, there's January 6th.
And then there's January 6th. And he's running again and has a great chance to win.
Right. Right.
And
And I
so
know, and a little while ago, when I referenced the camps, that he basically had a lot of Haitian folks, and even a lot of Mexican folks, everything I said, concentration camp. I don't want anybody to come for me later on, but just understanding basically camps where he had adults and children
separated from
detained
yeah.
detained and separated
Separated
from
from
each
each other.
other, and they were not getting humane treatment. And I think that is very important to note because people died
Mm-hmm.
in those holding areas, and children were separated from their parents and their loved ones, never to be reunified with them again.
Yeah.
That's something that we don't talk about. We're not acknowledging, and I think that's a travesty and a shame.
Yes.
And I think that was criminal. And when we talk about, the many reasons why I don't think he should be reelected, that is one of them. Being a mother myself, I cannot imagine someone separating me from my child um, for no reason. People are seeking help. They're seeking political asylum. They're
Mm-hmm.
seeking safe harbor. They're seeking to escape a situation that for them is a very, painful situation, what they feel is intolerable, whether it's political asylum or religious asylum or whatever. The things that have happened on American soil, to some immigrants and to Hispanics and to Haitians, um, it's unspeakable. It's
Yes.
unspeakable. And then, when we talk about our history, of course, things that have happened to Native Americans and Black folks in this country, also horrible.
Yes. And so, see, when we talk about when we go back to freedom of speech, you saying what you saying could be seen as anti-American speech
Well,
because
and this is what I would say. I'm sure, when we talk about, again, critical race theory and
mm-hmm.
people who are basically anti critical race theory, um, anti diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Mm-hmm.
conversations about, either of those topics, parents who are showing up at, school board meetings and protesting and physically intimidating, assaulting, and terrorizing folks because they want books removed from school libraries
Yeah.
and reading lists and all of these things. You know, a book is something that's published. There are books that are fiction. There are books that are nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when we're talking about nonfiction books, you know, these are books that have passed muster. that are recognized as having factual information, and you're saying that you don't want people to have that information, that knowledge.
Yeah.
I think
I feel like we're going
that's
back to the
an attack
days
on
of
free speech. That
yeah,
is to me an attack on free speech, and
we're going
that's
back to the
why.
days of burning books, burning libraries. You know,
Well, I mean, so
canonizing certain stuff and throwing other stuff out, and then and making
so
what you
in
want to be the
Michigan,
Bible.
there is a town that just had one library, and they voted to close that library rather than allow that library to remain open, because there are books on the shelves that they are saying need to come off the shelves. And again, attack on free speech.
Yes.
It's that's insane to me.
Yeah.
That's I'm like,
You
what
know,
kind
this is
of world are we living in?
so not to, I guess, yeah, I ain't gonna say not
Hmm.
to, but
Hmm.
I think we could take that free speech discussion another step further and say, then, is an attack on free speech almost an attack on blacks?
Well, and it's not even, and it's not just black folks. This is, and while we're talking, I looked it up, but an operating millage for the Patmos Library in Ottawa County's Jamestown Township
Okay.
um failed to pass a vote. It failed 56% to 44%, um, because they did not want to have any LGBTQ themed books in the library. Okay.
Okay.
And this was the second attempt to pass public funding for this library. And now the library is looking to have to close its doors. Okay.
That's
And
crazy.
so it's not just about blacks.
Okay. That's crazy.
It's a myriad of topics, and
So
it's
that the books that they were trying to get rid of didn't have anything to do with history or it just had to do with LGBTQ.
this was LGBTQ.
It was were they like fiction books or nonfiction books?
um I don't believe that these were any fiction books, but
They were
some of them
nonfiction
may
books.
have been. But it was the fact that these had an LGBTQ theme.
Okay.
um
Okay.
and so, my point is, just kind of overarching, in 2022, there's lots to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's a lot to talk about. We're here. We're talking about it. There's lots of questions. People are looking for information on a variety of topics. They're seeking knowledge. They have opinions, but there are folks who are interested in other opinions. But more importantly, they're interested in knowing the truth.
Yes.
And they're interested to hear what you think, what I think, what their neighbor thinks. And to say that you can't talk about it, you can't have the conversation, you can't ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? What are we
Yeah.
moving toward? And I think that's the danger, and that's the reason why I'm posing this question about free
Yeah.
speech, because I'm like, what happens when a few people push, and we're not talking about everybody, we're talking about a few people,
Mm-hmm.
here and there, but enough misbehaving in such a way that they are creating a situation where we're moving toward a dystopian society.
I got you. I got you. And I mean, when you I think everything should be on the table, and it should be up to, if I don't want something in the library, not that I would want everything in the library. If I don't want my kids to see it, I don't take my kids near that. I monitor what they're doing. I know it's hard to
Absolutely.
monitor anything today because of everything that you have going on. They can get online and see anything, but this is why, as parents, you're supposed to talk to your kids and explain stuff to your kids. Even with Kanye West and the stuff that he's doing, a kid would have to, if they hear that and they say, "Well, what's anti-Semitic?" Now you got to have this discussion. Um, if you see Brittany Griner and she's in jail and people are talking about the LGBT community. Now, if your kid didn't know what that was, you got to have that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
What is LGBTQ? You got to have that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But that is your job to have that discussion. And I think, like you said, I think free speech should be there.
Mm-hmm.
The only censorship that you should really see is the censorship in your household.
Absolutely. Say that. Amen.
That your household should be, and that censorship shouldn't last forever, because your kids are going to come out of that household and they're going to go into a world that they don't know, that they don't know what's going on. So your household, there should be time for censorship until you're ready to explain some things to them, or when they see something or they come to you with something, then it's time to explain it and explain in a way where they can understand. And sometimes that's hard to do. Kids don't come with a manual on how to.
They don't.
They don't come with that.
They don't.
So in today's world, if they came with a manual, it probably would be, as you said, they'd probably be trying to ban it anyway, because it would be what some other people think the manual should be. So,
and I totally agree with that. My comment on, when you say the censorship in your home, I totally agree with that 110%.
Yeah.
Listen, I made the decision to be home with my children, to not work, to be with my children. I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 and a half years.
Yeah.
Okay. That was something that I decided before I had children. And when I was dating their dad, that was one of the things that I said to him when we were dating, because I wanted him to know, listen, if you're serious about a relationship with me and you see me as someone potentially that you want to marry, you need to understand what my standards are, but most importantly, what the non-negotiables are.
Mm-hmm.
And, that can also be a topic for a future show.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
But I told him, look, I don't really have a lot of non-negotiables, but that was one of them. And I was not willing to negotiate on that. I said, I want to be able to be at home with our children and not work if I so choose, meaning that you will be the sole breadwinner, you will be the sole provider. If you have an issue with that, tell me now. I'm not the woman for you. Okay.
And hey, it worked out. All the kids are good as far as I know.
Look, Randy,
all the kids are doing well as far as I know.
Listen, my kids will tell you I'm still mom. I'm still mom.
Doing well as far as I know.
Get ready to come on, my phone rang.
And that's like I said, they don't come with a manual. But the thing is that it's up to you to make sure you know what to me, that's the only time, and it's not taking free speech away. It's just censoring what they see until it's time for them to know. There's a time and a place for kids to know certain things.
Yep.
I don't think my kids should be thinking about sex at 7, 8, 9 years old.
Yep.
Although there's ways for them to get to it, and there's ways for them to see it. And at that point, I have to try to teach them.
And you have 3 boys.
Yeah.
And so I will definitely say, somebody may say, well, is it harder to raise boys than girls or whatever? I will say this. I think that I definitely felt that pressure and that stress of having a male child. I was glad he was the first and he was the oldest. But it's not necessarily easier raising girls. It's a different, there's some different concerns and some different issues and different stressors. But I 110% agree with you when you talk about as a parent having to determine what those priorities are in your home and regulating in your home. and controlling that flow of information in your home.
Yeah.
There were certain, my kids will tell you, they're grown, they're 24, 22, 20, and 18. They will tell you there's certain things I did not let them watch.
Mm-hmm.
I did not let them watch. There were certain movies they couldn't go see until they were a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter. Sometimes that little one was mad that she couldn't go to the movies with her. But I'm like, look, I had to do that.
And I was a little different.
Important.
And it may have been because I had boys
Mm-hmm.
and I have boys, and I'm a little different. I'll let you see certain things. I'll
Mm-hmm.
let you watch certain things, but you're gonna watch it with me, and then we
Right.
can sit down and we can
Yes.
talk about what's going
Yes.
on.
Yes.
We, you know,
Do
I
that.
don't want you to watch it by yourself, but we can
Yep.
sit down. We can talk about. I don't mind
Yep.
having the discussion. You know, I don't think I'm not one to try to keep my kids from
Right.
anything. I want them to know. I want them to know the racial history. I
Yeah.
want them to know their history. I
Right.
want them to know, you know, I don't want them to be scared of
Right.
knowing something about sex. But I'm not just throwing. You're not about to watch no porn in front of me.
Well, and they
but
have
but
to
at the
be,
same
you know, and the
time,
thing
if
is, you have to be mature enough to handle that.
yeah,
That's my
but at
thing.
the same time, if I'm in the room and you walk in and I happen to have something on and there's a nudity scene in it, I'm not
Yeah.
losing my mind that the kids saw it.
Okay.
I'm like, hey, come here. Hold on. I'm like, first off, this ain't for you. You shouldn't be watching this. So
Right.
going on out the room.
Right.
But if they ask me something, well, what you look, it's a movie about blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's not something that you should really be watching right now. But if you got any questions about something that you think you saw, ask me.
Right.
Because I can tell you what it is. I can, and there's a way to talk to kids. Hey, your mom has this. Your dad, you know, it's a way to talk to kids and let them understand
Right.
because they know,
Right.
especially in today, they watching stuff and seeing stuff at a different rate than what we were. So you have to kind of continuously talk to them about this different type of stuff, or you will lose. You know you're gonna lose the battle. And so I mean, I'm not that way, but I don't see nothing wrong with it. You know what I'm saying? And I think I would probably be different with girls. And somebody would say, well, that's wrong. And I would say it's a double standard because there's a double standard. It just is what it is. Women, there's a double standard because there's a double standard. Because at the end of the day, there's certain things that I'm gonna want my boys to do that I'm never gonna want my girl to do.
Right.
And that's, you can say that's a double standard,
Right.
but if I got a house full of boys and I got one girl, I don't ever want that girl taking the garbage out.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? I don't ever want her
Yeah.
taking the garbage
Look,
out.
you know,
You
hey,
got,
and
you
I
know,
don't
you
like
got,
taking
you got 3 boys, or you got, you know, well, you know, Michael being grown, you got 2 boys. If I had a girl, I would never want her to take the garbage out. You got me and your brothers.
Right.
Now, when you get your own house, you know what I'm saying, and you by yourself, if you don't never get married, you by yourself, then I'll show you, okay, this is what you should do to take the garbage out. I'll come and show you those things at that time. Or when you about to, or you get older and they out the house, I'll show you. I'm not going, still not going to have you doing it because I'm going to be there. But I'll show you, okay, this is what you do. These are the things you do. I'm going to show you how to change your tire. I'm going to show you how to do that stuff. But at the same time, if you got 2 brothers, 3 brothers, and a daddy at home, and your tire go flat, and we are somewhere around, you need to call us, and we need to come change that tire. Because I want you to have in your mind that that's what it's gonna be. You know, I'm not saying I don't want you to be able to change the tire if you need to. You know, but I do want you to have in mind that if you got a man around, that's something that he should be doing. You know, there's a big difference if man at work, your husband at work, and then that helps him out if you can change that tire. But at the same time, if that man's sitting at home and your tire go flat, he can get up and go help you change your tire. And I just want, you know, so there's a double standard. Yes, it's gonna always be a double standard. But you know, those are things. Like I said, I don't know how we got off into this, but with freedom of speech. But I mean, but at the same time, you know, those are things that, you know, we you know how the show go. We always did this. We talk about stuff and then they go off into other stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, when we, you know, just to wrap up the freedom of speech thing, I mean, you know, I totally agree with you that, I mean, we are headed towards a place where
Mm-hmm.
the PC or the politically correct culture is
Mm-hmm.
a little bit overboard.
Yep.
I remember, I remember, I don't know, it's been a while back, but I was talking to somebody and I said, I sometimes think that us black people in the fight for equality, we have empowered people to use our stuff, the things that we did to get equality, to do silly stuff. And and that's what I'm starting to see. I see that people are using many of the tactics that we use, the boycotting, we cancel culture is not new. Boycotting was our cancel culture. The boycotting, the not doing certain things. I see now people are using that to do certain things that sometimes is unnecessary. Like like I said, if you're gonna keep the energy across the board, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see. I think everybody has the right to believe what they believe, whether
Well,
even if it's the white person that don't like black people,
mm-hmm.
you have that right, and I have the right to know that you don't like me, so that I don't be in your presence. I don't want to come to your business if you don't want me there. I don't want to give you none of my
And I
money
think that
if
that's
you don't want me
I
there.
think that you hit on something, very important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the South.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Montgomery, Alabama. I was raised in Montgomery, Alabama. I know you currently live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things in the South, I will say for me, I was never, ever, ever called a nigger until I moved to Michigan. Okay.
And I'll say I've
And
never been called a nigger in the South. Where I got called a nigger at was here.
never a day in
Here in
my
Detroit.
life
And well, not in Detroit, but in Michigan.
and here's the other piece, and this is truth. I never felt unsafe growing up in the South. I did not feel racism in the South. I didn't know anything about racism, truly, until I moved to Detroit. Okay. And I got an eye opening and a rude awakening on steroids. Okay. I tell people here, my memories of growing up in the South were that the white folks that I encountered were friendly. They spoke. I didn't have any negative run ins. I don't recall my parents having any type of negative run ins. There was no fear. Because to your point, if folks didn't want to be around people of color, they weren't around people of color.
Yeah.
They were off somewhere in a
Yeah.
community to themselves, undisturbed. We didn't bother them. They didn't bother us. Never the twain shall meet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you see, I always tell people that one of the most segregated state that I've ever been in is my home state of Michigan. And
Listen, it's a sad truth.
yeah,
It's a sad truth.
we
I
are
didn't
very
know
segregated.
what militia was. I have seen you. First time I ever got called a nigger, I was standing on oh gosh, was it Mac in Grosse Pointe? Okay. In Grosse Pointe, walking along the sidewalk with a really close girlfriend of mine. She was expecting. We were out there shopping for baby items. We're standing on the sidewalk. Car full of, older teens drives by and they yell nigger. And I look and I'm like, who are they talking to? And my girlfriend is like, they're talking to us. I literally was so mad. I started running down the street. She was
And so this is the thing. I don't know if you remember.
It was so shocking. It was
I don't know
so
if you remember. And like, I want to say this might have been. It's definitely was sometime between 2005 and 2010. They had a big thing going on in Grosse Pointe in Harper Woods where realtors wouldn't show homes to black people in Grosse Pointe. They would show them Harper Woods.
Well,
People,
I
black people.
noticed, and look, I noticed for a fact because I have cousins. My cousin who at that time was married, living in that area, um, and basically was looking to move to that area because that was an area that he always wanted to live in. They have 2 high schools out there. One of them is majority white. One of them is integrated.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
And
of where
so
because the way it sits, so you can only go to one of the other schools.
the way that it sits, and they make sure that when they show you homes,
They show you in the place
okay.
where they want
And
you to be at.
so I'm just saying,
And it was a big thing about that. I'll never forget that. That was a big thing about them showing black people homes, and the black people like, no, I want to see a house in Grosse Pointe, and they would take them
look,
to Harper
it's
Woods.
still a thing.
Yeah, I
Still
don't know now because I'm not here, but I mean, I'm quite sure it is. You know, I used to drive through Grosse Pointe all the time because I used to love the houses out there.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Okay, let's just be honest. Beautiful homes, beautiful homes,
Especially when you're off
beautiful
that lake.
neighborhoods. When you drive down, I mean, look, you ask any Detroiter, you drive down Jefferson Avenue. Now, of course, things are different now because there's been a lot of development and a lot of improvements in the city of Detroit, and especially on the east side. But at one time, when you drove down Jefferson Avenue, there was a marked difference.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Between what was Detroit and what was Grosse Pointe. And
Oh
you
yeah,
knew
no doubt.
when you crossed that
It was
boundary.
night and day.
You knew when you crossed that
Yeah,
boundary.
you knew when you crossed it. Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is now it is less noticeable because there's been a lot of, just development and cleanup and really working to make sure that the city looks good from point A to point B and everything in between. But Grosse Pointe, there has just it's always been a thing. When you drove out to Grosse Pointe, that whole piece of driving while black, that's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
My mother was in the hospital in Grosse Pointe. I was out there visiting my mom in the hospital. I left the hospital. Police car followed me literally to the Detroit border. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And
Livonia was the same way. Me and my brother used to get followed in Livonia all the time.
I've seen it has definitely happened for my siblings. I have 2 brothers driving down 8 Mile, Ferndale police. I've seen Warren police follow folks into the city of Detroit and pull them over. Multiple cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you need 5 cars for a traffic stop? Explain that to me again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So these are things that that still happen. And and they're not right. So just like I said, I needed to say that.
I'm one for if you don't want me around, trust me, I don't want to be around. I love living around my people. I live in a very diverse neighborhood now. But the houses in the neighborhood are mostly owned by white people. I mean, the area overall is diverse because there's apartments in the area and stuff like that. But the houses overall, for the most part, is predominantly white people. But there are some black people in there. They have some money and they live in some of those homes. And then when you go across 285 and you get up into Buckhead area, you find a little bit of mixture. But again, you still got majority white. But I am one for if you don't want me there, trust me, I'll find somewhere else to be. I'm not about to fight with you and want to be around you because my people, for the most part, we get a bad name, but I feel like a lot of times I've never felt uncomfortable living around my people. That's just me. I know some people like I ain't living. I'm
well, and I don't. Some of it, I think some of it is that people may not feel uncomfortable, well, may not feel comfortable living around their own color due to crime or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger piece is really access.
True.
Folks wanting, for me, I can say for me, I live in the city of Detroit proper. I'm
Mm-hmm.
one of the few people in my family that actually has always lived in the city of Detroit the whole time that I've been here. The physical, not the burbs, but the actual boundaries, physical city of Detroit.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been a journey because I spent the majority of my time just wanting to praying to God to move me anywhere but being, here. And, now I'm in a place where, I feel settled, I feel connected. I feel that there is part of my purpose,
Yeah.
to be in the city and work on behalf, of the city, and service people who are here within the city. But like I said, that's been a journey. Um, but I think that a lot of folks really it's about access when they talk about, where they live. They want to not be paying exorbitant taxes. They want to be safe. They want their kids to have good schools. They want to have access to good health care and hospitals. They don't want to live in a food desert. Okay. They want their surroundings to be aesthetically pleasing. So I get that and I understand that. And I think that many urban areas and urban planners now are paying attention to that and really revitalizing. Um, that's a whole separate conversation
That's a
too.
whole separate conversation because I can give you a whole.
Yes,
I'll tell you a whole. I can, even over here in where where my mom
right,
stay at. I
right.
mean, I can tell you that they are revitalizing, but they're revitalizing with the thought process that another group of people are coming
So, and that's what I was gonna
here.
say. Gentrification
Yeah.
is a real thing. That's
And
another
that's where the
conversation.
revitalization is coming from. Now we stand strong and we hold on to the things that we have until we
Right,
can't hold on to them no
right,
more.
right.
But the revitalization is coming because the
Yeah,
thought process there's going to be another group of people here. And
yeah.
when I hear people say
Mm-hmm.
certain things about that, but that's a whole nother conversation and we need to talk
Right.
about that another day. But I'm gonna just say this one piece. When I hear people talk about that, I hear them and I
Mhm.
understand, but I'm like, when you take the tax base away from a place, how do you expect that place to build?
Right.
And so when you are the responsible one and you're taking the tax base away from the place, it's hard for it to build.
Mhm.
There's a catch-22 to that too, because you still got the crime going on, you still got different stuff going on. So that's a whole long conversation.
Mhm.
We definitely can get talk about it and possibly get maybe some planners on here with us and talk about that. But I want to thank you again, Tracy, my
Oh, it's
wonderful
always
co-host.
my
What you got
pleasure.
going on, Tracy? You got anything big coming up soon?
Gosh, like I said, just working on, future topics for these shows. Right now, just getting ready for the holidays.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would definitely say, one of our shows, we will probably talk a little bit about that. Just,
Okay.
planning for the holidays and,
We can do that.
de-stressing,
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
some fun stuff.
Um, anything you got going on? What about your podcast that you're looking at starting?
So I actually am looking to launch a podcast,
Hmm.
and the
Not that this is not yours because it is too,
no,
but
no,
you know what I mean.
no. You know what? I know we have our joint projects, but then we have our individual
Yes.
projects. So that that's definitely in the mix. And I'm looking to hopefully launch Miles and Minds
Okay.
after the first of the year.
Okay.
The premise is that, I want to talk about topics that are in the mouths and on the minds of folks,
Okay. Good.
and, just have some fun conversations, but also some in depth conversations because I think,
Good.
again, there's a lot to talk about.
Good. 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 Okay. Tell them how to reach you.
So you can reach me. You can email me, tracybrooks@gmail.com. That's Trayce brooks@gmail.com, or Trayce_B on Instagram.
Okay.
And I look forward to hearing from you.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, same thing. Still working on getting the book all together. Just to give you, just I don't know if they can see that. They may not be able to see that because it's on us. We got that green screen, but that
Yeah.
right.
Oh, there we go. There we
So
go.
that
Any
is a
success.
preliminary for the book cover.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see because I got the green screen up.
Right. Right.
But got that going. Once we get that together, you can see it for a second, so it was cool. Once we get that together, then I was pushing for it before Thanksgiving, probably not. So hopefully we can look at before Christmas. Um,
And I like the backdrop. Wealthy thoughts.
yeah, so yeah, I got the backdrop
And
up.
that crown is sitting right at your head. I like that.
So we go that I'm a I put this up a lot of times when I'm not at home. I'm not in
Hmm.
my normal spot. I'll
Right.
use this. I'll start using this. But as I said, I'm on the road today.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
some of the
Right.
shows I will be on the road, and and we'll be doing that type of stuff. Probably one of these shows I'll probably be somewhere, and I'll go and hit on and have a backdrop because we'll probably be on the beach somewhere. So
Hey. Hey. Hey.
so but besides that, I mean, the think success is what I got going on. I started some groundwork for writing my next book, which is called Wealthy Thoughts. So I started some groundwork for some of the kind of outlining the book out. I started that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Still working on the project with my son Michael, working on his project. It's an EP. He did all the beats and he asked me to perform on them. So
Shut
I'll
up.
be doing some rapping on that stuff. And I still got music out on Apple Music. You can,
We need to get some sound bites on the show. Some intro
well,
music.
you always use I use some of the music, from eomimusic on the intros.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like I think like episode 2, at the
Hmm.
beginning, I used one my spoken word artist, Johnny
Oh, okay.
Natali.
Okay.
That's from his song For Black Men. I used that. I used a verse from his song For Black Men, which I am featured on. So I used his part and I used my part, and then I think at the end I used a song that I never released
Okay.
for that. And then I think the first week is a song that I released on my last album called Infame,
Okay.
which you can see on Apple Music, Spotify,
Okay.
anywhere. You can stream it anywhere, or you can go and buy it anywhere.
Okay.
Um, buy the digital copy of it anywhere.
Got it.
And then you can reach me at Instagram, randy.r.graham. On Twitter, the randy.r.graham. Facebook, you can reach me at randy.r.graham. And if you are in the Atlanta area and you're looking for real estate, you're looking for any type of, if you're an investor looking to buy a home or you're looking to sell a home, you can also talk to me. Call me at 404-438-7113. You can also email me at randy.r.graham@gmail.com. I got a lot of places you can get in contact with me at. I'm all over. Hit me up.
Right.
Also on Instagram, you can also go to MRH Investments LLC, and that is my investment company, real estate investment company. Or you can hit us on Instagram at Eomi Entertainment, which is also the entertainment company that me and my son run together. My
That's
oldest son.
awesome.
So that's where you can get us at. We thank you for joining us again, Trayce. Your topics always have been, we've been doing this for a long time, just
Right.
on the phone with just me and you. so your
Absolutely.
topic is always on point. So keep it up, and I can't wait for Miles and Minds.
Okay. All right.
I can't wait to be a guest on there.
I know we definitely gonna have you because I'm gonna have you talk about a bunch of different things, but definitely affirmations.
Oh,
I think
okay. Yeah,
that'll be
yeah.
one of the
Yeah, I
first.
did forget about that. I do got a book on Amazon called Gratitudes
Yeah.
and Affirmations. I got a couple books on Amazon.
Yeah. You
Two
getting to
of them.
be quite the author now.
The other book that I got on Amazon, I don't really promote it because I didn't like the way that it ended up coming out. I just kept it up there. Just, some other people might like it. I just didn't like the way that it came out. It didn't come out the way I wanted to. So I really don't promote it. But Gratitudes and Affirmations is a book that you can get on there. Again, it's a book for you to write out your gratitudes and affirmations, and something that you can track your, a daily journal for yourself. So I would love, if you want something like that, you can go pick it up.
Yeah, I definitely want to have you on to talk about that. My youngest she is a huge proponent of affirmations.
I would love to talk to her about it.
Yeah, she tells me all the time. She has been on me about that, and so I was waiting for your book to come out, and I said I'm going to get it. I'm going to journal, put my affirmations in, and then talk about the results. Yeah, it's made a difference in her life. When I tell you, she is manifesting. She is actually manifesting the things.
I can tell you that I have. It definitely made a difference in my life. Okay. And I'm one. I believe in God. I'm not necessarily a religious person, and I don't believe in religion, but I believe in God. And my thing is this: even if you were a person that didn't believe in God, the laws still work. And if you speak positive over your life, it will come to pass. And one of the main things that I think I, can get from that is, one of my favorite, I'm not going to even say the preacher's name, but one of my favorite preachers back in the day said, when you say the word I am and you put something negative after, you have blasphemed the name of God. You have to say I am and say something positive after. And so I believe in that very much. When you say something about yourself, make sure it's something that's going to be positive and it's going to do something good for your life. Because when people run around here talking about broke and I ain't got this and I don't have this, you're not going to have it, because you keep on putting it out there that you're not going to have, that you don't have it. So yeah, affirmation is very important. Pick it up, Gratitudes and Affirmations. I don't have the cover of the book here, but you can go on Amazon, look up Gratitudes and Affirmations, and possibly put my name in, Randy Graham, and it'll come right up. That's it. Thank you again, Tracy.
Good night, everybody.
The thing is that just because we're magic doesn't mean we're not real.
The scene was thick with delicious French vanillas, the dark chocolate. Chicks wall to wall, they about to get alcoholic beverages in their system. Kane stepped in, they can't resist them, trying to get that pussy knocked down like Sonny Liston. But I'm a gentleman, nice guy, good fella. But I'm Tommy DeVito about my cheddar and making a pussy wetter. Sweater puppies make better buddies when I set at ease, then spreading the knees with no pressure indeed. I'm a professor between thick thighs. It's wise to say this guy don't play. Without blue pills, I still rise today. Tip trills to college heels, polish the head, not where my knowledge is. Trying to reach where epiglottis is, the deposit is. I'm positive, my provocative words to beat is composited through speaker boxes. Brings me profit, I'm like Superman in this metropolis, cause I stay in the lowest of lanes. That's my prerogative, my cash stack like Miss Taskmacher's rap. And dripping on feminine women, chocolate dipping and Wallace they claim pippin', Rick Kane dipping, insane living. The D equipped me to rip scripts on beats and line pockets deep. Yeah, this Eomi baby, Eomi baby, Eomi baby. The world is mine like I was Tony, baby. You don't know me, baby. You don't know me, baby. Original Asiatic, black magic, it's all on me, baby. I flow more on this episode. Hope